I like that.
Oh,
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're very excited to have you here for our fundraising strategies and ideas training today. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. A couple of exciting topics to chat about, and we'll get our team going in here in a minute. If you could go ahead and open up your chat and drop the name, your name and the event and your role in the chat. That gives us an idea of kind of who's here today and how we can kind of tailor our questions and our opportunities as we go through. That would be fantastic. We'll go ahead and go through our agenda and talk through our team. So Brian, if you want to hit the next slide. All right, so today we're going to go through some introductions, do a little opening. We have an opening video coming in from our fearless leader. We're going to talk a little bit about why we fundraise, the ELT's role in fundraising, and then really looking at fundraising levels in events and how we support that. And then we'll wrap up with a closing. And so are your presenters, your team today? We have with us, my name is Jolene Wegstein. I am a Relay for Life volunteer in the California, Guam, Hawaii division. And I'll let the rest of our team introduce themselves. Oh, Sherry,
you're muted.
of course. I always forget the mute. My name's Sherry Slover. I'm the CGH Division Co-Lead Volunteer.
And I'm Brian Sherwood. I'm the staff partner to the NRLT and the Senior Director for Relay for Life.
And not actually with us tonight in person is Susie Lawrence, our nationwide Relay for Life lead volunteer. She's going to actually join us via video here in a moment, but she was part of our team putting this training together. And also we're going to hear from her in a minute. So again, if you haven't already dropped your name, your event, and your role in the chat, go ahead and do that. That will be great. I see quite a few have popped in. And Brian, you want to go ahead and hit the next slide? And we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to hear a little bit from Susie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susie Lawrence, and I'm the volunteer lead for the National Relay Leadership Team. I am so sorry I can't be on live with you tonight, but you're in great hands with my friends. I do want to take this opportunity, though, to say thank you. Thank you for all you do for the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life. And thank you for joining us tonight. You know, whether you've been relaying for years or you're new to the relay movement, funding the mission is an integral part to Relay. It's the fuel that drives research, patient services, and advocacy for every cancer, every life. The ACS has actually funded 50 Nobel laureates, and we're currently funding more than $400 million in grants. We're the largest private funder of cancer research, second only to the U.S. government. Just last year, we provided 500,000 nights in Hope Lodges, saving cancer patients and their caregivers approximately $50 million, as well as providing 42,000 rides to treatment and appointments for cancer patients. And that really just scratches the surface of what the ACS does. Cancer.org puts so much information literally at your fingertips. And our toll-free number, 1-800-227-2345, provides personal, 24 hours, 7-day-a-week support. 81% of ACS expenses go to fund the mission, earning us a 4-star rating on Charity Navigator. Just like me, you can be so proud to be a Relay volunteer. Thanks again for joining us to end cancer as we know it for everyone. And I'll leave you with this. Fundraising certainly isn't everything we do, but everything we do depends on it. Thank you, and I know you're going to enjoy the rest of the training. Have a good evening.
We always love when we have our fearless leader, and we were talking before the call that we had not all watched the full Susie video. We really left it up to her to surprise us, and what a great message about so many of our ACS services And as Susie ended with there, fundraising is not all that we do, but all we do depends on it. And I think, we're kind of preaching to the choir here with our event leadership team volunteers and team captains and participants. I mean, you know how important the American Cancer Society and all of our services are to cancer patients and their families. So we wanted to start tonight, as Susie kind of led us into, with a little bit of why do we fundraise and why is it so important? And more importantly, or just as importantly, I should say, what tools are available to you as a Relay for Life volunteer in talking to others about why our fundraising is so important. And so we'll start with, as we usually do, the mission, which is to improve the lives of people with cancer and their families through advocacy, research, and patient support to ensure everyone has an opportunity to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer. And I think it's so apt. I've spoken before on some of these training calls about what a gift our updated mission statement and our updated tagline was to Relay for Life, because we truly are a fundraising movement that celebrates every cancer, every life, and is working to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer. And so, our updated mission statement and our updated tagline are so integral and such a great part of Relay for Life for all of us. So what else do we have to talk about how our fundraising supports the mission? The first resource, that Susie kind of alluded to here is our Give with Confidence resource. And we will share all of the links to these flyers and stuff that we show you here on the training recording page, and they're also available on acsresources.org. This Give with Confidence is kind of it's a new, updated, but if you've been a Relay volunteer for a while, you're probably remembering we used to have something like this. We used to lay it out as a dollar bill and how much of your dollar was going to each portion. It's a little bit of a different spin on that, but the same idea, where it shows that 81% of our expenses, as Susie mentioned, go to our mission. You can see the breakdown there of what's going to research, which is listed as discovery, what's going to our advocacy work, and what's going to, the biggest chunk, which is our direct support of cancer patients and their families. Things like Hope Lodge, things like the NCIC 800 number, things like Road to Recovery are covered in that patient support section, as well as grants to cancer hospitals and treatment centers to do things like provide rides to treatment, provide additional patient lodging. ACS is really a whole approach. If we can't do it well, maybe a local cancer center can, and we can give them a grant to be able to do just that. And on the left here, you'll notice we have our three kind of lineup of Give with Confidence graphics. We were excited that last year we announced that we had become a 4-star rated, which is the highest star rating you can receive, charity on Charity Navigator. And what that really means is that our donors can give with confidence and knowing that the money that they're giving to the American Cancer Society is being used wisely and is being used to further our mission to end cancer as we know it for everyone, and that we're transparent about what we do with the money that we receive. That's the really important piece there, is that financial transparency to our donors. Candid is another organization that rates that transparency, and we have a platinum rating with them. And we, for a long time, have been a Better Business Bureau accredited charity, responding to complaints or issues about donations, knowing again that our donors can give with confidence when they give to the American Cancer Society and in turn Relay for Life. So the next one we'll show you is another resource around where the money goes. This is another great tool that we'll make sure that you are able to use at your events or your fundraisers. We love this one because it's got all these amazing QR codes. If you have been a relayer for a while, you maybe remember the day where your mission table had a pamphlet and a flyer for every American Cancer Society service we offered. And you would, someone would sit at that table and they would attempt to try to know everything about every service we provided and answer questions about the American Cancer Society's mission. Well, it's 2024, so we know that maybe not everyone wants a pamphlet for every one of our services. And again, if you've been a relayer, there's this thing called wind that likes to show up at relays. And so sometimes the less paper, the better when it comes to your event. So we have these great Where the Money Goes that talks about our services, talks about the different pieces of cancer.org, of both, survivorship, the understanding of cancer diagnosis, information for caregivers and families, and then again, individual resources that we have available for different types of cancer for patients and their families. So this is a great tool to use at your events, to use at your fundraisers, to talk about the components of the mission that 81% of every dollar funds. With that, I think I'm turning it back to you, Jolene.
Yep. So we really wanted to talk a lot about, when we talk about fundraising, one of the things that we are going to kind of focus today on, right? This was geared towards our ELT, our event leadership teams, right? So we're not going to spend a chunk of our time just listing a bunch of different fundraisers. We are going to have some time to chat about that. We're going to send you in some of those directions, which Susie alluded to in her video, as well as Brian talking about the resources that we have of where you can find some of those great fundraisers. Part of what we want to do today is really talk about what is the role of the event leadership team as it comes to fundraising, and how do we support our teams, our participants to become fundraisers, because it's not just the event leadership team that's doing the fundraising or thinking of the fundraisers as we go from there. So next slide, Brian. So really the role in fundraising that the ELT should be doing, it's really, 5 things, and that kind of all mold together to create this great opportunity for people to become great fundraisers. And like I said, it should not just be the event leadership team that's doing all the fundraising, but really promoting those for everybody else to be doing fundraisers. So really it comes down to ELT should be training and teaching team captains and participants how and why we fundraise. Right. So when we're looking at that, so those 2 resources that Brian just shared with us really are a way for us to educate our volunteers, our team captains, our participants, the rest of our ELT, and our community about why we are fundraising. What is our money in this fundraising environment going to support? What is that 81%? I love being able to tell my community that 81% of our fundraising goes directly towards our programs and services. And that's a great way to look at that piece of it. So we really want to talk about why we fundraise, but then we want to talk about how we fundraise. And we're going to jump into that a little bit later today. Sherry's going to share some specifics around how we fundraise at some different levels, but we want to spend some time at those training meetings, those team captain meetings, those ELT meetings, really talking about successful fundraising, not necessarily a successful fundraiser, but what successful fundraising looks like, and then how we can gain resources and talk about the why. Another big piece is really to celebrate those fundraising, and it kind of goes with the second one, is set goals to celebrate. So I know that not everyone is, a $100,000 individual fundraiser or a $10,000 fundraiser, but someone may have had a super successful team fundraiser that brought in $1,000, and that was really exciting for them, and we need to celebrate that. We also need to set goals as an ELT of what we want our fundraising goals to look like, and celebrate that along the way. So when teams are reaching their kind of cut points or whatever, we talk a lot about in our best practices that really 90% of our fundraising should have taken place prior to our event. About a month before our event, we should have about 90% of our fundraising. Our events really should be about that celebration of that fundraising. So in order to do that, we want to use something called benchmarking to monitor that success. So let's say we have a goal. I'm going to try and make this math easy for myself. It's the end of the day. But let's say we have a goal of $100,000, right? That's what we want our event to bring in for the year. So to benchmark that, I want to look at my planning time or my pre-event time. And I want to get to about 90,000 about a month before my event. So and we're going to also use the calendar January to December, which is not typical, but that's easy for my brain. So if we want to be at $100,000 on December 31st, by November 30th, we need to be at $90,000. So then we're going to look at how do we back that up, and when do we need to check in and say, ooh, we are ahead of schedule. That's awesome. But if it's July and we only have $2,000 in, and we're 7 months into our planning, and we should really be at about 7,000, we may want to talk about having a challenge to boost that fundraising when we need to keep up with that pace. So it doesn't come November and we realize we're so far from our goal and feel defeated, but we're tracking that along the way. What also is great about benchmarking is if you are benchmarking by month, right? Every month you're checking into that, you have every month an opportunity to celebrate the successful fundraising that's taking place in your event. And so that benchmarking is really a great way to help our events feel successful and jump in when they need to. I am in education professionally, and so I think of this as kind of like an intervention, right? With our benchmarking, we're not quite there, so we want to do some work to get there. The biggest and most important thing that we need to do is the role of an ELT is, yes, everything we do depends on fundraising. It truly does. Our organization runs on the fundraising that our events do. But people come to Relay for Life and they come to the American Cancer Society for a personal connection, right? And we want people to stay connected. And so we want this to be fun. We want there to be an element of fun around our fundraising. I think that we want to ensure that people are excited to support each other in their fundraising and share fundraisers with their friends and families, to get together with their Relay family or get together with other family members. So Brian just dropped in the chat while we were talking a little bit. Number one, a goal setting fundraising page, as well as event goal setting. So team and then event, and then that goal give with confidence flyer. So you have that there. But I really recommend looking at that goal setting worksheet, because it's really going to help look at when can we maximize some time. For example, if your community has a huge event, a community event around, let's say, 4th of July, how can you tap into that and create some fundraisers, either personal, team, or event around that time, and put that into your benchmarking and your goal setting? So just some things to kind of ponder there that are highlighted on that worksheet. And Brian will go to that next slide. And then the other thing we talked about was that goal setting. So a thing to really look here at this is, by tracking that every month and celebrating those pieces of it, we really get an opportunity to celebrate that success of what that looks like and feels like as we're going through that. So there's a couple of things. I have that kind of older thermometer picture that we were showing there, but there's a ton of resources on acsresources.org of just different ways that you can track your fundraising. But any way you set a goal and track that goal along the way to get to your fundraising goal, it's a great visual. It's a great way to celebrate. It's a great way to see how can we jump in, and then how do we involve our event, our teams, and our participants. So with that, I'm going to send it over to Sherry, and she's going to talk a little bit about those 3 levels.
Great. Thank you, Jolene. So there, as we all know, there's so many ways to fundraise and so many different types of fundraisers. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about event-wide fundraisers. Those are going to be kind of like your bigger feeder events, I guess I want to call it. So that could be like your Bark for Life. Maybe it's a 5K run or walk. Some kind of an entertainment outing. Maybe it's a comedy night, fashion show, or maybe it's similar to like a gala. Maybe it's a dinner with a silent auction. As Jolene mentioned, setting those goals are going to be really, really important. And the best way to start doing those, setting those goals is thinking about how long is it going to take to achieve this goal? What are the components that are going to put into that fundraising? What's the best way for us to achieve this goal that we have set? Not only, again, this is more on an event level, but it can be also for your teams or an individual participant. And then what are the resources that we're going to need? Are we going to need to be getting involved, getting our staff partner involved with this? Are we going to have to invest money into this? And, and think about it too, is how much time are we going to be needing to invest in this? There's no wrong way to fundraise. And the only fundraising thing that I know that is not a good way to fundraise would be gambling, right? I don't think we're allowed to do that. So, and keep in mind, not everybody is made to fundraise, and that's okay, but everybody can do their part. So You may not be handy with those knitting needles or a great baker or craft maker, but maybe you can sell the ACS mission instead of a physical item. So maybe you're selling research and patient services and education when you're asking for donations. What's important is that we don't just throw out ideas and expect people to know how to do it. We need to provide them with the training, support, and we need to empower our team captains and participants in the how-tos of fundraising. So the first step, again, like Jolene mentioned, I mentioned, definitely, it's got to start with a goal. If you're just go, oh, I'm just going to fundraise, if you don't have something, an end in mind, it's really hard to achieve. And like I said, you're going to want to figure out how long of an investment you're going to make, time, money, resources. Figure out what fundraiser would work best to achieve those goals in your time allotted. And then figure out what resources, again, those fundraisers are going to need. Next slide, Brian. Many times when we have team captains join our event, they're thinking, oh, this is great. And they just assume that their teams are going to be doing, or their individual participants are going to be doing fundraising. So we want to train them to not only just think that, oh, just because you have participants joining your team, that they're going to be fundraising. Have them set meetings with their teams. I mean, the team captains have meetings with their members that are signed up for their team. I think a lot of teams have gotten away from that. And I think that's really important because then they can also pass on things that we're doing as an ELT onto their team members as well, as far as the encouragement and the empowerment and the celebrations of milestones reached. Encourage the team captains when they have somebody to sign up, encourage them to become a Hope Hub member. Easy $100. They get the t-shirt and the benefits of being a Hope Club member. And I know, like when I first started fundraising and I reached my $100 and I got that t-shirt, I thought that was the greatest thing of all. I got to go out on that track wearing my Hope Club t-shirt saying, hey, I raised my $100 for the ACS and the mission. Let's make sure that we're teaching our team captains how they can celebrate their team members doing their fundraisers. It could be as little as maybe they give them some sort of a tchotchke or something and announce it, to everybody. And hey, like we should be doing with our team captains, when we have team captains reach certain goals, we should be at our meetings celebrating that and announcing it to at those meetings and say, hey, we just had team ABC reach Jade Club. Yay, and they raised X amount of dollars to do that. So we want to make it fun. We want to make it something where they're getting excited and everything else. Also, encourage teams when they're having fundraisers. Maybe they can do something as we as an event, if we're doing feeder events like a Bark for Life, that all goes into our event. But maybe teams can do, encourage them to do fundraisers as well. Maybe it's a bake sale. Everybody that participates in the bake sale get proceeds that go to their individual fundraising. Or what if you do a social event like a paint and sip? Any tickets sold goes to those people that bought tickets or any tickets that they sold to that event goes towards their individual fundraising. So we can be really creative in trying to make them successful without them having to do a lot of work. If a team captain arranges that fundraiser, that paint and sip, all those people, all they have to do is either buy tickets or sell tickets, and they're adding to their fundraisers. Like Jolene said earlier, we're not here going to give you list of fundraisers. We kind of want to get you in the mode of training people how to fundraise, because a lot of times people just don't know where to start. And the best thing we can tell them is make sure that it's something that you enjoy, that you're going to want to do, and make it a fun raiser. So if there's something you have a passion that you do, maybe it's a book club, everybody participates, maybe they're making a donation and the proceeds all go to ACS. Again, you guys are all creative, and we'll talk a little bit more and get some of your ideas on that as we move along a little bit further into the evening. Again, Jolene kind of mentioned too, put in a challenge. We do it, ACS does it, right? We all participated in the YI Relay Challenge. Hopefully we all participated. Or other fundraising challenges that go on throughout the year. So you can do that as well on an event level. Challenge your teams to do it within their team to get their participants to do some fundraising. I know there was like statistics too, right, Jolene, years ago, that if you meet certain criteria, like if you had a survivor on your team, an average team that had a survivor raised $1,000-something. So maybe it is, maybe you challenge them not only to fundraise, but to recruit survivors on their team, because those teams tend to raise more money. So again, just be creative. Encourage them to do whatever is fun for them, or that lies with the passion that they currently have, whether it be baking or sewing or knitting. We highly encourage those, because those are pretty easy, and a lot of people are good about giving donations for a tangible item. And I think that's about all I have, Jolene. I think it's up to you now.
All right, so we kind of wanted to open this up, and as Sherry mentioned, right, we're not doing the list of different fundraisers in the chat. I also just dropped the links to two things on acsresources.org, and that was one of them is just the fundraising resources page. So some of those things, for example, the goal setting, that kind of stuff is there. There's some additional resources that are there to just support around fundraising in general for the American Cancer Society. A couple of the things that Brian dropped in there as well, the Give with Confidence, that's kind of where that all lives. So you have some direct links to some of those things we highlighted specifically tonight, but also the link to just that overall resources page. Additionally, I linked in there our fundraising database, which is also on acsresources.org. I don't want you to leave here today without getting some sort of resource about different ideas for fundraisers. But again, the purpose of today was really to talk about how are we supporting others to become those great fundraisers. So I wanted to open it up. A couple of things. We'll do some we're not a really big group today, so I don't know if we need to go into smaller rooms today. I think we could do it just with this group collectively, but really wanted to open it up to the group to do kind of two ways, right? Whatever your comfort level is. We're monitoring the chat. So the big question is, how are you supporting your ELTs, your teams, and your participants to be fundraisers? Or I want to throw out there, what kind of questions do you have that our group can help support and answer? So you can either come off mute or you can drop it in the chat of some things that you do to be a trainer of fundraising, or questions that you have about that.
Jolene, I have something. Pat
Go.
Johnson in Richmond. How are you?
Great.
So one thing I started doing over the last year or so is supporting the teams. So if they have an event going on, I show up, I bring a one pager and it literally has our little logo for the relay. It has the QR code for the team if someone wants to donate. And then it has all my cash apps. And then at the end of the event, I just take care of paying back the team. And we also go to different events in the community, trying to get the word out, trying to get people to join, trying to teach people about, getting screening, et cetera, et cetera. I have a whole table set up that I do. So, and then we do buck slips when we're going places. I don't think you're going to be able to see this well, but the buck slips. And then like tomorrow night, I'm going to Powhatan High. They're doing a Mr. Powhatan. So I had a buck slip made with their QR code. I'll put those out on the table for people to take. I'll bring our flyer from Relay with us so that it'll be standing there for people to see when the relay is. But just giving back and supporting the team. And whenever I do events, the end of the month, they have a tractor pull here in Powhatan. So I'll be there. I'll have my table with all the ACS resources. And then I have another table with anything to attract children, because if children come, parents will. And I always raffle some. So this year I bought, for the tractor supply, I bought 3 little tractors, or for the tractor pull rather, a little tractor blanket, things like that. And I tell people a donation from your heart. It's not $3 a raffle. This is a donation from your heart. And we usually do very well, anywhere from maybe $60 up to $200, $300. Up to 1,000, depending on the event size. So same thing with bake sales. We've done a lot of give from your heart, and people tend to give more.
I like that idea, give from your heart. And I appreciate also,
Yeah.
That's a big ask. I mean, a big kind of, I don't want to say ask, but a thing that you're doing by going to all of your events, your team participation, but it's also a great way for you
It's
to
a motivator for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how could your ELTs support that maybe and kind of, sign up,
Right.
I'm going to go here. So I think that's a great best practice, right? If ELT are showing up to support team fundraisers, right? It's number one, motivating support. But also as an ELT member, I bring with me my own family and friends to come along as well. So is there a way to divide that up? So I think that's a great best practice to support by showing up, right? I think that's a great thing. I really love that. And I really like that idea of taking our fundraising, that not everything has to be a set price, but to give with your heart. I think that's a really cool thing. I can imagine some logo work around that, Brian, of, kind of an idea of how can we put that out there, because I mean, it is also, we want to make an ask. We want somebody to have an opportunity to donate to an organization that they believe in. But we don't want to eliminate someone because we've set a monetary value that they're not able to do at this time. So I think that's
Right. Some people can give 50 cents, some can give $100. It just depends. One other thing that our relay has been really successful with is sponsorships, corporate sponsorships. So a lot of people really don't want to sell. And I come from an insurance marketing background. So someone once told me I could sell ice to an Eskimo probably. I said, well, of course, they need it for their igloos. So, but anyway, we tell them, bring the sponsorship letter, bring the sponsorship form. But if you're not comfortable, circle my name on the front, write Brenda's name, and ask them to call one of us. We'll take it from there. You get the credit, but we'll help sell it. So that's made our sponsorship very successful.
That's awesome. Kind of having a sponsorship expertise, if you will, but giving everyone the opportunity. I wanted to just highlight in the chat, in case you don't have your chat up. Mary shared that they offer the Relay logo tablecloth, QR code signs, flyers, so folks can have those at their fundraisers, encouraging those team captains to support those. So that's a great way to do that. It's kind of like a fundraising kit, right? Like, here you go, check this out. You can go use this at your fundraiser and kind of circle around so that logo, that idea is out there. That's a great idea. I think that's a fun way to keep that going and support that piece of it. What else do we have? Anyone want to come off mute? Or are we going back to the chat? Oh, they get credit for what they help raise. So fundraisers that teams and participants know. So I'm going to assume that's going to be an event level fundraiser that if teams and participants participate in, they get credit for being part of that that group that is putting on that fundraiser. It's a great way to get more people involved, right? So it's not just a small handful of people that are putting on those things. I mean, I'm sure we can all think of how many times you can probably count on one hand the same 5 volunteers that show up to put on all the things. But that's a great way to get other people in there. We also talked about employers doing matching. So teaching our team captains and participants about matching for employers. I think that's a great, that's an easy one for volunteers that may be a little reluctant or hesitant to make that ask publicly, or, you know, kind of have that that personal face-to-face, like I'm fundraising for the American Cancer Society, and here's what we do. If you're not comfortable doing that, connecting with your employer to just, I'm participating in this event for our community, we're doing some matching funds. Would you be willing to do that? That's a great resource. We actually have some resources on acsresources.org that help support that process as we go. I love that.
Jolene, I think, one of the things that I've seen just our event leadership team do to help promote even their team's fundraisers is, they maybe they're sending out monthly newsletters to update about the meetings that are coming up, and maybe they include a list of the fundraisers that teams are working on in that upcoming month, or putting a calendar on their event website that has upcoming team fundraisers, or sharing in their Facebook group, the fundraisers that are coming up. So I think there's so many pieces of empowering your teams. And I mean, we all know that if you do all the hard work of putting on a fundraiser and you don't raise very much money, it's kind of a little bit of a letdown, right? Like, so we want to do everything we can to make those teams successful, and success can look a lot of different ways. That doesn't mean your first restaurant fundraiser is going to raise, $500, $1,000, but it might mean it raises $200. And so, helping our team celebrate those wins, as Jolene said earlier, and using the communication tools that many of us have as event leadership team members to help celebrate that and give kind of those public kudos and help promote those as well, I think is huge. So.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I think one of the things that, on my own event leadership team kind of talking through is that even if you're not able to go to the fundraiser that you're getting the information from the ELT, like share it out with other people, right? So we look about our our own outreach and our own influences and our own connections, right? And so if we just only keep it with just the ELT in that same group, right, we're just sharing each other's money. But if I share for example, there's a big sale happening, I'm not going to be in town, so I cannot attend, but I can share that out on my socials and with my people who are still going to be in town, and they can go and support. So I have now communicated with people and extended that reach and that connection. So I think that's a great piece of just, maybe there's some sort of a challenge or a contest with who shared, the flyers or the fundraisers the most, which team was able to get to gather more people to come to more events, right? Like have something like that to just spread that message, because that's a huge piece of it. And I love that idea, Brian, of connecting it back to what you're already sending out and make it predictable. So I know, like, oh, I'm going to get on the first Tuesday of the month, I'm going to get the monthly update from my ELT. It's going to have in there the fundraisers that are coming up for the next 2 months, right? Make it predictable and easy. We want to direct people back to our landing pages of our Relay for Life homepage, right, of our event pages. Put everything right there. It tells them not only about our event, about our organization, but it also tells them ways that they can support our organization monetarily. So I think that's a great thing there. I love that, these flyers with QR codes. Now it's so easy to create QR codes. I think that's a great, you're right, we're now in 2024. Makes it super easy. Everyone walks around with their phones in their pockets and their credit cards attached to them. So it's very easy to give in that sense. I'm just going to scroll over to the chat and see what we have going on.
While you're doing that, Jolene, I'll mention just a couple things. One, you just mentioned QR codes, and so we'd be remiss not to remind folks about that the app now allows you to accept Apple Pay and Google Pay and PayPal with a QR code. So folks don't have their wallet with them. A lot of folks have Apple Pay these days. A lot of people have PayPal. I think there's so many options of accepting donations now. I put a link in the chat to the flyer that we had put out for that new feature, but so many great ways to accept even if someone doesn't have cash on them these days. So
yeah, and I think to your point too, Brian, one of our roles is not only to educate our teams and our team captains and participants about why we fundraise, where our money goes, kind of how to fundraise, but really the resources that are there. And I think one that we often think everyone knows and gets and uses regularly, we may want to take some time, and that is to talk a little bit about that fundraising app, right? And so taking some time at a team captain meeting or at some kind of event where you have folks that are there and ready to do their things, right? Really talk about that and take some time. Anybody need help downloading and setting up their app on their phone? Here are some things. Or hey, here, you're an Apple user, you're a Google user, you're an Android, whatever, split up across the room and get some experts to really do some question answering. It truly does make collecting donations really easy, and takes that, oh, I'll get that check to you later, or I don't have any cash on me right now, to really kind of eliminate that barrier, but also wanting our team captains and our participants to feel confident and using that. So that's kind of another one of those, our role as ELT is to also make sure that we don't assume everyone has that app, but we take the time to really teach and talk about that, because we talk about it a lot, those of us that use it all the time, and make it seem like everybody, it's everybody's doing it, but really taking time to do that as we go through. Anything else in the chat?
I think just highlighting a couple of our top performing fundraisers, Jolene, is great.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll sing their praises here for a few
Yes.
minutes, and I think it goes back to what Sherry was talking about when it comes to doing fundraising with something you're passionate about, right? We have some of our top fundraising teams in the country. I'll start with, I mean, I can't not start with number one. Nucor Steel Decatur in Alabama, Karen and Jean. They put on several events, big, large scale events, a golf tournament, a fishing tournament, and then their crown jewel, if you will, Cycle the South, which is a bike race in the South. But these events are tons and tons of work for them. And if you ask them about it, they'll tell you, oh, it's okay. Like, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's we care about relay, we care about ACS, and really they love to do it, right? Like, it's something that really gets them excited. When you look at Cycle the South, which is an over $100,000 fundraiser for their relay team, it's so successful because Nucor, the company that's primarily attending, that is their employer, those employees love this bike race. They love the way it's put on. They love participating in it. They love getting sponsors for it. I look at the Truckers Parade Against Cancer with Shannon Feynman in one of the Carolinas. I always pick the wrong one, so I won't even try. But this is a truckers parade. It's got all kinds of different trucks. They raise tons and tons of money every year, and it's something they love to do. These truckers love to participate. They get to do this thing. Shannon loves to put it on. Like, it's a super successful fundraiser. Yes, these things can be a lot of work, but if they're a labor of love, then we have our team captains that are willing to do it, and it's all of our jobs as relay leadership in whatever capacity, whatever role you're serving in, to create environments where people can find their passion in their fundraising, and put on amazing fundraising events, large or small. It doesn't have to be a Cycle of the South. It can be a bake sale. It can be a craft fair. It can be any of those things, fundraising for ACS. So sorry, Sherry, Jolene, I think you're both off mute. So.
So I wanted to share something else too, something that while you were saying that brought to mind. Look around in your community and see what's going on. So the new thing is what? Paddleboard? What is that? Like
Pickleball.
That's what it
Pickleball.
is. See what kind of things are tournaments that are going on in your area, and go and talk to them and say, hey, I see that you're having this event coming up. Is there any way that we can team together and some of the proceeds go towards the American Cancer Society, whether that be like runs in your community, whether it be pickleball tournaments or horseshoe tournaments, or I don't know, anything that's going on in your community. If you talk to their leaders and say, hey, we would really love to partner with you, and maybe some of these proceeds or something that maybe we could partner together, and split the proceeds between your charity and ours. So, and they're doing all the work. All you're doing is just coming in and asking that maybe it get donated to the American Cancer Society, and tell them how great the American Cancer Society is and all the things that we do here. Just a suggestion.
Perfect. I see, Sherry Carroll, you have your hand up.
Yes. So I did a pickleball tournament. I
Awesome.
contacted a park and rec. And I was just honest with them. I said, I know nothing about pickleball. I've never played. I know no rules. But I would like to do a fundraiser. I said, I can do all the fundraising stuff. What can we do together? One, it gets you out in the community. It gets us out in the community. So we planned it for MLK weekend. We are already set for 2025. It was such a success. We did pickleball. They got a t-shirt. We had food there. What else did we do? 50-50 raffles, things like that. And it was after t-shirts, everything. It was about a $4,200 fundraiser. So they definitely liked the inside tournament. And it came back that the Park and Rec donated everything to us. So we didn't have the payroll or anything of the Park and Rec for that weekend. So it was a great event. And what they did was they just partnered with the local pickleball association ambassador, and she headed up everything for us. So before the end of the event, they said it was so successful that they wanted to do it for 2025. I've already requested off work all those fun things to make it happen for next year. So definitely, I did write down my correction of errors as soon as I got done with my event. So if anybody wants to do a pickleball tournament, wants my notes, I'd be more than happy to send those on to anyone.
Perfect. Sherry, would you be willing to put your email address in the chat, and then anybody can capture that in email if you have any questions about pickleball? Because you're right, like we have to really maximize and capitalize on what is the thing that's happening in our communities that is going to bring people out. And so I think that was a great way. I love your open and honesty with the group. Like, I don't know anything about this, but I know it's a big deal. And how can I jump in on this? So I think that's a great thing. So Sherry has her email in the chat there. If anybody has any pickleball tournament questions, that's great. I love that you're willing to share your what to do next time or what not to do. That's always a great thing to learn from each other. Any other ways that we're celebrating, supporting, or maximizing our fundraising with our events, our teams, and our participants?
I wanted to just give a shout out. One of my teams did a gala, and they've already got I think you call it a participating sponsor for next year. So, but they made over $5,000 between the event itself and the silent auction. They did very well. And who's Sherry? Is it Slover? I have to say, gambling is allowed if you count lottery. I just asked Brian.
It also depends where you are. So you have to really do double check your local, state, county, and city requirements and restrictions as it pertains to some of those things specific. So Sherry and I hail from California.
I was going to say, we got the Californians on.
Things are a little bit tighter here in California about what we can and cannot do. So we're a little more reserved when it comes to that. But please do double check with all of your state and local restrictions as it comes to fundraising for nonprofits. What that looks like, and connecting with your staff partner is the best way to make sure that we're following all of those regulations as we go. So yes, it is that we do hail from California, and things are a little bit different out here. Alrighty, well, with that, just kind of in closing today, we hope that you, if you haven't already opened all the links that we sent in the chat, go ahead and click those links so that you have them saved on. I know I have them all open on my tab, so I'm ready to go. But take a minute to go from there. So in closing today, just a reminder of our mission, right? Our mission is to improve the lives of people with cancer and their families through advocacy, research, and patient support to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer. So your fundraising provides the support to make sure that we as an organization can continue to do this, and that we can continue to be a 4-star rating organization. We can continue to be receiving some of those accolades, as well as acknowledgments of doing the good work that we do, and knowing that we're doing good work with our heads held high, and then maximizing all of those dollars, because it's not about making money for us, it's about making money for those who are experiencing and facing a cancer diagnosis in their families. So we really do want to end with that. Sherry and Brian, anything else to add for closing?
Just thank you all for being on tonight. It's so great to hear from everybody and hear about how you're empowering your fundraising volunteers.
Yes, we enjoy hearing from you, because a lot of times too, we learn from you. So with you guys sharing also helps us to learn and grow, as well as everybody else that's on the call. So, we appreciate your participation.
All right.
And I
Thank you.
just want to give a quick shout out to Brian. Thank you for all my posts. I forget the page name. It's just the red one, I call it.
Yes, the fundraising group, of course.
If people don't use that, share it. Share to that. I've got people from all over the country participating in my lottery fundraiser, and then different various fundraisers we do.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and drop my email in the chat if anybody has any follow-up questions from today. Sherry, I'm not sure if you're able to do that as well, but just any follow-up questions you have, that we're here to just be a support. We may not have the answer of what the fundraiser is, but I'm pretty sure we can get you to the right resource. So again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will be sending out a recording and the slide deck in the next few days, right, Brian? Probably early next week.
Yep. And if you haven't gotten enough relay training, we do have, it's the peak of relay season. So we'll do a little commercial for next Thursday is our event experience training. You're not going to want to miss it. We have some amazing volunteers and staff that are going to be on next week to talk about what they do to make a great event experience. And so Kayla went ahead in the chat and posted the link to RSVP for that training. You won't want to miss it. It'll be a good one. So.
Hey, Brian, that one's a live event as well, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yes. You'll be able to ask questions of, not to spoil it too much, but one of our events with the top voice of the customer score in the country will be on the staff for that event. So, bring your questions for how they create a great event experience to that call.
All right, y'all have a great evening, and look forward to hearing about some successes of your fundraising across our socials and things like that. So have a great day. Bye, you guys.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.